Live?
Is that a yes?
We are live now.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Let's call the Caddo Parish Commission work session to order. It's July the 6th at 3:33 p.m. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Burrell.
Here.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Present.
All right. Commissioner Gage Watts. Couldn't hear if I heard her or not. We'll come back in a minute. Commissioner Taliaferro.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Chavez.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Here.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Here.
According to what I heard 10 present and 2 absent.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. Commissioners, we will have our invocation by Commissioner John Paul Young and our Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Jackson.
Let me get back with you. I'm on Zoom commission meeting. Okay.
Commissioner Young, are you with us? Okay, he's on mute.
Yes.
Host, will you unmute Commissioner Young?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are we ready for the invocation?
Yes, sir.
Please join me in prayer. Oh God, in these trying times of disease and affliction, of desperation and fear and want, give us your strength and show us how to treat our neighbor with the love that your Son taught to us. Teach us to sacrifice for a stranger as we would for our own child. Give us the blessing of humility to admit our ignorance, our weakness, and our helplessness, and to seek and achieve strength in you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Commissioner Jackson, you have the floor.
I'm not sure if his audio is working. Do you want somebody else to lead it?
If everybody could please stand. We have the flag on the Zoom. Thank you, Mr. Everson. Citizens, commissioners, you may place your right hand over your heart. Military and veterans may do a hand to brow salute and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Everett. Thank you, commissioners. We'll work on getting Commissioner Jackson's feet back up, but in the meantime, Mr. Everson, do we have any agenda additions?
I have received 2 agenda additions. I tried to link them onto the agenda as I received them. So for reference, if y'all need to take a look, they should be linked. And the first one is, so each of these are resolutions that were drafted through legal from various commissioners. The first one is a resolution enacting a COVID-19 threat level system within Caddo Parish and otherwise providing with respect thereto. And the other one is an emergency ordinance mandating masks or facial coverings in certain establishments and public places to provide penalties for the violation of same and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. Those are the 2 items that have been shared with me for potential consideration for an agenda expansion if y'all are interested in discussing this.
Thank you, Mr. Epperson. Okay, I see Mr. John Paul Young on the board, and I see Commissioner Atkins. I believe at this time, we will have to vote to expand the agenda to add the ordinances. We would also have to hear public comments to allow for the public to reach out and see if they would either be for or against the expansion of the agenda to add the agenda additions. Mr. Everson, at this time, what is the phone number for citizens to call into if they would like to get on the board to speak?
Sure, the phone number is 318-226-6596.
Okay. At this time, citizens will open the floor up to either speak for or against the expansion of the agenda. And we'll give about a minute if anybody wants to call in, and then we'll proceed with the vote on the expansion of the agenda to add the agenda additions.
Mr. Chairman, I could not hear the clerk when he read off the first proposed expansion. Could you please ask the clerk to repeat that for us?
I will, and for clarity's sake, because I know this is, we have two items that have been submitted. And so if we could have a motion and a second formally so that we can have a good understanding of if this motion is to add both of these items, one of these items, or the other, that kind of thing, that would be helpful in record keeping for this discussion. But we have a resolution and an ordinance. The resolution is a resolution enacting a COVID-19 threat level system within Caddo Parish and otherwise providing with respect thereto. That's the resolution. The ordinance is an emergency ordinance mandating masks or facial covering in certain establishments and public places to provide penalties for the violation of same and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. I'm going to acknowledge Commissioner Young. You have the floor first. Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. As regards the emergency ordinance, I sort of helped put that together, and I've only just received the copy that legal sent me in my email. I spoke to several commissioners, and some expressed the opinion that it would be better for us to have, at least a day to read the whole ordinance before discussing and voting on it. I personally haven't read it myself all the way through yet. I participated in the drafting, but haven't read the draft that's available now. So I think it would be better for us to deal with it as a special session item, if we so choose, and not try to hustle through it in the next 90 minutes because we're not going to have time to read it carefully, and we really should. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Young. I have Commissioner Atkins, then LBJ, and then Stormy.
My issue has been addressed, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Commissioner, or Vice President Johnson.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda the COVID-19 threat levels. This document basically follows what Harrison County is doing. And Harrison County is actually in Houston, Texas. It's the capital of that one. It has 4 different levels. Level 1 is basically a stay at home. Level 2 is minimize all contacts. Level 3 is stay vigilant. And level 4 is resume normal activity. If we're gonna require people to wear mandatory masks, this kind of gives people the reason why and why we come up with mandatory, or we come up with encourage, or we come up with urge, or we come up with optional. So this document kind of goes into details as to why we say mandatory or optional, and it gives locations in which you can go with a mask on. So it's just basically, giving the public some information on why we say that it should be at a certain level and why masks are mandatory.
I second that.
All right. Thank you, Vice President Johnson.
Commissioners, this is the clerk real quick. I just wanted to make sure that we reminded ourselves, now that we have a motion and a second, we need to allow for the public comments to be heard, and we do have a few people on the line.
Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner Watts, I have you on the board. Will you yield so we can hear from the citizens quickly?
Absolutely. I have several texts that they are not able to get in, so that's why I raised my hand.
Okay, awesome. Go ahead, Mr. Everson, bring them on, please.
Michelle is connecting them now.
Ms. Green, are you still on the line? Okay, and are you speaking in regards to the agenda edition? Okay, if you hold on one moment, I'm going to put you on speaker. Just state your name, okay? All right, hold on one second. Okay, you can go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sharon Green. I would
Ms. Green.
like to ask support for the mandatory mask law. When you consider that we're dealing with a virus that spread exponentially, which means that wearing a mask not only affects the person who wears the mask, but also affects the general population. So I don't think it's a lot to ask to have somebody put on a mask if it protects not just the person wearing it, but also protects everybody around them. So I think that it would really behoove us to help stop the spread of the virus if everyone was required to wear masks. What you want to do, like not wear a mask, it would be okay if it only affected you not wearing the mask. But you not wearing a mask also affects me. And I don't think that my life should even come close to comparing somebody who just wants to walk free and just basically not wearing a mask. So I think in order that we save lives, in order that we protect the citizens, and in order that we make a difference in the lives of all citizens as it relates to enhance the quality of life, I think that everybody should be required to wear a mask.
Does that conclude your comment?
That concludes my comments. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. You have a good day.
Deputy Nations, do we have another one?
Miss LaShonda,
Okay.
are you speaking in regards to the agenda edition? Okay, if you hold on one moment, I'm gonna put you on speaker. Just say your name, okay? All right, thank you. Okay, you can go ahead.
My name is LaShonda Juice.
You can go ahead with your comment.
And I still ask favor for them wearing masks for a number of reasons. First and foremost is the numbers of COVID-19 cases rising. Virus, in that we do not have a mandate for staying at home. Virus. Personal note, both of my parents contracted the virus. My dad spent 26 days. Later, I saw firsthand what this virus actually does to the person's body, to the family. So when we out wearing masks, you can be asymptomatic and carrying the virus and don't even know it. Happened to my dad, someone with asymptomatic had the virus, and that's how he was affected. In turn, he affected my mom. So, mandate the public, because we are our brother's keeper, and that's the only way we're going to spread. We have to have some type of mandate. I have to stay at home order. And I say the virus does not move. They're the ones that are moving the virus from place to place, from person to person.
Does that conclude your comments? Ma'am?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day. Okay, let's see.
Michelle, do we have some more callers on the line?
We have 5 more.
5 more. And just for everyone's reference, after the callers have completed, I have received kind of a flurry of emails as well.
Dr. Ashok, are you on the line? Okay, and are you speaking in regards to the agenda edition? Okay, if you hold on one moment, I'm gonna put you on speaker. Just state your name and go ahead with your comment. Okay, you can go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Ashok Rao. I'm a retired physician and anesthesiologist. I'm calling in to support the proposal to mandate wearing of masks in all public spaces. As a long-time registered Republican, I feel we should be united in this proposal and do what is right for all our citizens. You now know that the virus is primarily spread by air. The risk is higher in enclosed spaces, and masks would certainly be very effective in reducing the number of cases, illness, and spread, and even death. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Law Finley, are you still on the line? Okay, and are you speaking in regards to the agenda addition? Okay, if you hold on one moment, I'll put you on speaker. Just state your name and go ahead with your comment. Okay, you can go ahead with your comment.
Yes, my name is LaWanda Finney with the Save Our Sons Drop the Guns organization. And I'm in favor of mandating the mask in Caddo Parish.
Does that conclude your comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have a good day.
Thank you.
You too. Bye. Miss Sierra, are you still on the line? Okay, and are you speaking in regards to the agenda addition? Are you speaking in regards to the agenda addition? Yes, ma'am. Okay, if you hold on one moment, I'm going to put you on speaker. Just state your name and go ahead with your comment. Okay, you can go ahead.
Hi, okay, my name is Sierra Carambellis. I work with the public, and unfortunately, I'm seeing way too many without a mask, and I know too many personally people who've been affected by this, and I'm tired of it, and I think it's negligible for us to not wear masks. So I'm all for it. I think it should be mandatory.
Okay, does that conclude your comment?
It does.
Okay, you have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, bye. Miss Hill, are you still on the line? Okay, are you speaking in regards to the agenda addition? Okay, if you hold on one moment, I'll put you on speaker. Just state your name and go ahead with your comment, okay? Okay, you can go ahead.
Okay, my name is LaShonda Hill, and I am in favor of people wearing masks. I know it may be an inconvenience, but I think it'll keep everybody safe in the long run.
Okay, does that conclude your comments?
Ma'am.
Okay, you have a good day.
So thank you.
Thank you. Bye. And that's all the callers that we have.
Thank you very much, Deputy Clerk. And I will now begin reading the emailed messages that we've received. The first one comes from Julie Cupp, and it reads, "Hello, my name is Julie Cupp, MD. I trained at LSU and now work here in the SBC for Willis Knighton as a breast surgeon, and people need to wear masks to slow the spread of COVID-19. Slowing the spread with masking will help avoid the need for stay-at-home order and increase the safety of schools opening in the fall. Let's keep each other healthy and wear our masks. Thank you." The next comment comes from Meredith DeWitt. And Meredith writes, "My name is Meredith DeWitt Wooster, and I am an internal medicine and infectious disease physician who practices locally in Shreveport. I am a graduate of LSU Medical School in Shreveport, class of 2006, and did my training here in Shreveport. I own a home here and am raising my family here and love our community. As everyone else, I am very concerned about the effects of COVID-19 on our community. I want our community and local businesses to be able to open and for citizens to be able to spend time with friends and loved ones, but we need to do so safely. I am in support of a mandate to require universal masking in all public places. My family and I, including my small children, wear our masks anytime we are in public in order to protect our fellow citizens, but are usually not offered the same protection from others. Please remember that my mask is not to protect you, and my mask is to protect you, and yours is to protect me. If everyone masks, then everyone is protected. Thank you for your consideration. The next comment comes from Jaya McSharma, and it reads to the commissioners. I am writing again to please ask that you pass a mask mandate or encourage the mayor to do so. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a local physician hospitalist and have been treating coronavirus since it arrived in our city on March 9th. I won't bore you with the details of how novel, insidious, real, and deadly the virus is, but feel free to ask for those details should you need them. I've pronounced many people dead from this disease who would have otherwise lived much longer lives. We are past the window of hoping that people will comply out of compassion, understanding, or altruism. Businesses are not even enforcing their own rules. You will get pushback, but nothing outweighs saving lives. There are no medical reasons not to wear a mask if you are an able-bodied adult capable of understanding basic instructions. None. There is no medical doctor who would put their degree behind a mask exemption for a patient. COPD patients on oxygen wear masks. It literally does nothing to impede oxygen flow. Below, I have attached internal discussions among doctors regarding the notion of mask exemptions. Please do not base your information off anything from a cable news network. It is not perfect, but masks and social distancing are the only mitigation measures we have in lieu of forcing people to stay home. There are some who will protest out of a lack of understanding political agendas or ignorance. They will be loud. That does not mean it's the wrong decision. I would love for the government not to have to be in charge of this mandate, but as a society, we have proven we can't do it for ourselves, and every day the number of cases in the hospital goes up. We have quadrupled our inpatient COVID census in a week. Please help. It's past time. We've already lost lives in the community that could have been prevented. This is not a burden we should take lightly. And the next comment comes from Neera Chabra, and it reads, I am a practicing pediatrician in the Shreveport area and have had significant firsthand experience with COVID in our area. Unfortunately, I've seen some young children and adolescents with COVID infection. One youngster in our community was treated for multi-system failure. With a lot of great medical care, he survived. Several of the adolescents acquired it from outside of their homes and brought it back to their families. I cannot underscore enough that at this point, we need to do something simple as mandating mask wearing when in public to help curb the spread of COVID. There is worldwide evidence now that countries and states here who did this have curbed the spread of COVID. By the way, I'm a registered Republican and I endorse this rule. The final comment that I have received comes from Ms. Sharon Tran, and it says, I have received messages from friends of mine to reach out and show my support for a mandatory mask rule for citizens entering businesses. And that concludes the public comments that I've received. Oh, and I'm sorry, we do have one more caller who's called in while we were reading the email one. So Deputy Nations, could you connect that caller?
Sure, hold on one second. Mrs. Abraham, are you still online? Okay, if you hold on one moment, I'm going to put you on speaker. Just state your name and go ahead with your comment, okay? You're welcome. Okay, you can go ahead.
Hi, my name is April Abraham. I am in favor of mandating mask wearing in the city of Shreveport. I am a healthcare worker, and I do see the need of everyone to be mandated to wear masks for the safety of everyone.
Okay, does that conclude your comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
And
Mr. Everett, is that it?
while that caller was calling, we did receive one more. This is the last one that I've received, and it's from Mr. Chris Crackman. Regarding agenda additions, it says absolutely no to a mask covering mandate, regardless of what other countries are doing. Such does not make it right. You should always vote no to tyrannical mandates. And I'm sorry, we do have another caller on the line now.
Okay.
Hello, are you still there? Okay, I'm going to put you on speaker. Go ahead and say your name, and then you can go ahead with your comments, okay? Okay, you can go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Lily Norton, and I am in favor of mandatory masking because it's more safe. It's too many people are out and about not using masks, and that is a safety hazard to others.
Does that conclude your comment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for calling in. You have a good day. Bye-bye. That's all of them.
Thank you, Deputy Nations.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, I declare the public comments closed on the expansion of the agenda, and we move on to vote on Commissioner Vice President Johnson's motion, seconded by Commissioner Watts, on expanding the agenda to add a resolution enacting a COVID-19 threat level system within Caddo Parish and otherwise providing respect thereto. Mr. Evers.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Burrell.
I did have a couple of questions on that. On the threat level, I support it. I just wanted to get a clarification.
Commissioner, I'll tell you what, I actually have a copy of it. I'll shoot it over to you because we're going to vote on the expansion of the agenda to add it to the agenda, and then we won't actually vote on this resolution till later on if you'd like to peruse the info that I shoot you over. And then we can take the questions for the specific resolution later on in the agenda this afternoon. Would that be
fine.
Okay?
Yeah, that'd be acceptable.
Well, you said you had a couple. Was there a second question?
I do have two questions concerning the threat level and how it's to be implemented. So we can do that later.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Watts, I see your hand up. Did you still have a comment? Or was that for the second?
No, I already have spoken.
Thank you, Commissioner. Lastly, Commissioner Atkins, I see you waving.
Commissioner, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have not seen this threat level system yet. I know we're going to, we won't vote on it till Thursday if it makes it onto the agenda, but can the clerk make sure that we all receive that? Perhaps I've just overlooked it, or maybe it just came out recently.
It did. It just came out and we linked it to the agenda. So as soon as we received it, we linked it there. We'll send out a hard copy to everybody once we conclude the meeting.
You mean an electronic copy separate from the agenda?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, so Mr. Everson will send out a to all commissioner email currently right now for that, so we can look at that. And if you have any questions, we'll take it later. I see nobody else on the board. Mr. Everson, we're voting on expanding the agenda to add the agenda addition.
Commissioner Hopkins.
No.
Commissioner Johnson.
I believe some people are muted.
Yeah.
Are we voting on both possible additions or just the resolution?
This is to expand the agenda for the threat level resolution.
Just the resolution. Okay.
Correct. So Commissioner Hopkins voted no, and Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson? Commissioner Young?
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell?
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn?
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts?
Yes.
Commissioner Talaferro?
No.
Commissioner Atkins?
No.
Commissioner Chavez?
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus?
No.
And Commissioner Epperson? Commissioner Epperson? I didn't hear. So I didn't hear a vote on two commissioners.
Mr.
But
Clerk,
yes,
Okay,
I'm a
thank
yes.
you. Thank you. Okay, so that means there are 7 yeses, 4 noes, and 1 absent. But that, as an agenda addition, we have to have a unanimous passage, so that motion fails.
I think trying to
Mr.
record
Clerk,
his.
this is Attorney Frazier. Do we have someone absent from the chamber, or did someone abstain? Because if you have an abstention, we need to get that reason on the record.
No, I did not hear Commissioner Jackson, so I have him down as absent from the chamber.
No,
Okay.
I said I'm yes. I think Commissioner
Oh,
Everson
okay.
was trying to get off of mute.
Thank you. I'll correct that in my, so in that would be 8 yeses and 4 noes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Everson. And to clarify, I think a couple of people were, not commissioners, but there's other people that were asking, what are we voting on? This was the expansion of the agenda to consider this agenda item later in today's agenda. But like you said, we have to have a unanimous vote in order to expand the agenda to add an agenda addition that was not previously added the week prior. So since we did not get a unanimous vote yes, this will not get added to today's agenda. Mr. Everson, moving along.
Okay,
Mr.
the next
President.
item on our agenda is the citizen comments. Again, that
Mr.
phone
President,
number,
before we move on,
Yeah, Mr. Everson, hang tight a second. I think I heard Vice President.
yes, Mr. President, I'd like to exercise the right of the commission body to call a special session and we vote. And if we get 7 members, then we'll have a special session on Wednesday.
I think, I'm not sure if we can do this right now. Vice President, I think we can do it on our communique. If that's okay, if you can yield and we'll do it on our communiques.
That's fine, as long as we get it done in the meeting.
Okay. Mr. Everson, we're moving on to citizens' comments.
okay. And just as a reminder to any citizens who may be listening that want to call in, that phone number is 318-226-6596. And I'll begin with the written comments that we've received thus far. The first one comes from Ms. John Glover, and it says, and it's in regards to resolution number 52 of 2020. It says, can somebody help me appreciate this legislation, the need to have other than commission inform the public, potential rural property owners about property standards and ordinances to prospective buyers of land in the parish? Why other than the commission? And then it has, and then it copies the title of the ordinance of resolution number 52 of 2020. And then the next comment that we have is from Mr. Scott Hughes. This is also regarding item number, the resolution number 52. He says, I have reviewed the proposed resolution in draft form and would offer the following friendly comments and/or suggestions. The proposed ordinance references realtors, which are a voluntary member of a professional trade association. While the term realtor is often seen as synonymous with a person who sells real estate, all licensees are not realtors. In Louisiana, there are approximately 20,000 real estate licensees as certified by the Louisiana Real Estate Commission, or LREC. Today, there are only about 14,000 realtors, which also includes licensed appraisers, who are full realtor members, but are regulated and licensed by the Louisiana Real Estate Appraisal Board. Number 2, information about specific property shared by a real estate licensee with a prospective buyer is most often considered a legal disclosure matter. As such, matters of required disclosure are regulated by the Louisiana Real Estate Commission and/or state and federal laws. Established practice and most case law in disclosure is to require the current property owner to be responsible for disclosure of information relating to the property. Number 3, property management, including rental property, does not require a real estate license to manage property that is owned or managed. A real estate license is usually only required to manage property for third parties. As such, a high percentage of local rental property is not represented by either a realtor or a licensed real estate agent. It is owned and managed by the property owner. Based on the above issues of license law, please accept the following suggestions as they relate to resolution number 52 of 2020. A, consider changing the word realtors to property owners. This is where most current case law and regulation places the burden as a part of the legal disclosure process. And B, consider changing Northwest Louisiana Association of Realtors to the Louisiana Real Estate Commission. This is the regulatory body in Louisiana who establishes what constitutes disclosure and who enforces Louisiana license law. Due to industry errors in emission insurance, local real estate associations, brokers, and agents will simply follow those rules required by the LREC. Exceeding the legal requirements creates added liability with no protection under most of our E&O policies. On behalf of the Northwest Louisiana Realtors, we welcome conversation and appreciate your consideration of these comments as you seek to improve property standards in Caddo Parish. That concludes his comment. Our next comment comes, let's see, this comes from, it's a group of citizens who are sharing the comment. It's regarding resolution number 52, and it comes from the Caddo Alliance for Freedom. It's signed by Jessica Tullis, Jake Brown, Allison Taylor, John Glover, Chris Crackman, as the Caddo Alliance for Freedom. And it says resolution number 52, concerning resolution 52, please consider making known to citizens that their zoning may or may not have changed over 2 years ago without their knowledge. We are well aware that technology works wonders, but not all are privy to technology. With that said, whatever endeavor used to facilitate knowledge, please consider doing so. Let it be to the citizenry let it be known to the citizenry that there are now outlets to re-upzone their property with current waived fees by the planning staff. We all represent Caddo Parish, and we, the members of the Caddo Alliance for Freedom, are here to help all of us walk into those codes and ordinances that will ensure growth economically and for and to our parish, build on our financial base, and demonstrate that we are all one in unison. The next comment also comes from the Caddo Alliance for Freedom. It is the same group, Jessica Tullis, Jake Brown, Allison Taylor, John Glover, and Chris Crackman, but it is a separate comment. And this one says, good afternoon, commissioners. We, the members of the Caddo Alliance for Freedom, believe the time is now to begin dialogue that will bring forth codes and ordinances for property owners in rural Caddo Parish. House Bill number 697 empowered each of you, the commissioners of Caddo Parish Commission, to enact codes and ordinances for us property owners in rural Caddo Parish. As Mr. Clark, Executive Director of the MPC, has stated on numerous occasions, this endeavor will take time, and it will. Also, what we all know is this: the time is now to be ready to enact those codes and ordinances for property owners in rural Caddo Parish, effective January 1, 2022. In our estimation, we have sufficient time to develop those codes and ordinances, and we only ask that such begin now and not a ninth-hour endeavor. In our working together, we can ensure that the codes and ordinances indeed address the needs of the parish and the property owners in rural Caddo Parish alike. So that concludes the comments that we received electronically. And Deputy Clerk, is there any telephone callers holding at the time?
We have no calls holding.
Great. That concludes our public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. We move on to the next agenda item.
Our next agenda item is under visitors. We do have, and want to express appreciation for their patience today, we do have some visiting constables. Commissioner
Excuse
Epperson.
me.
Yes,
me.
yes,
I have a point of clarification. Was we only voting on the threat, the emergency threat? Is that what I heard?
Yes,
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes, Commissioner.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am. We only had one motion. That motion was made by Vice President Johnson for the first agenda. Nobody actually made an agenda addition and a motion to expand the agenda to consider the other one.
I think I think that Commissioner John Paul Young made that.
I think he more so clarified that he didn't have time to read it, but he's waving his hand. If you'd like, I can call on him to clarify.
Yes, I need some clarification before we go
Yes.
on. I made it
Sure.
in the comments. I put a note in the comments and I hadn't got an answer yet. So I need some clarification before we continue to move forward.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Attorney Frazier, for keeping track of it. I'm not the best at procedure and staying on top of how to get stuff done. I talked to several commissioners and some of them said that they just couldn't vote to discuss things that they hadn't read at all. So I thought it would be better for us not to bother to try to put it on the agenda for today, but to talk about it in a special session if we decided to call one. And that's sort of why I didn't make a motion. Does that answer all your questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney.
And Commissioner Watts, I was going to respond to the group under communiques. But I'm glad we got that taken care of right now. Mr. Everson, let's we'll go back to the constables.
Great, thank you. So again, Commissioner Epperson asked us to invite some of the constables to join us today in a similar fashion that City Marshal Charlie Caldwell joined us a couple of weeks ago. He, of course, is also a constable for Ward 4. And so we have invited, and we have several constables here with us today. We also have attached on our agenda the statutes to provide any answers to questions that y'all may have about the role of constables.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Epperson.
Okay, if it's okay, I would like to have each constable that's present introduce themselves and their district. And after they do so, I'd like to ask Parish Attorney Donna Frazier if she would just sort of give us a synopsis as to the responsibilities and the duties of the constables and the relationship with the commission for the benefit of viewers or listeners, as well as our new commissioners.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Everson, or Commissioner Epperson. We have them in order of Ward 1. Constable Paul Sapp, is he in here? Constable Sapp, are you there? I don't see him. Constable Barry Purcell.
Commissioner Chavez, I think we've identified the ones that are here. I think we have Constable Roger Harris, Constable Kevin McClure, and Constable Eric Hatfield. I know Constable Ken Smith did intend to join us today, but he evidently was in an accident. So we send our prayers for him for recovery. But I know that we have those three on the line.
I recognize Constable Hatfield, but I didn't recognize the other two visually.
We may have I believe Constable McGrew may also be on the line.
Yes, I see him on here as well. We'll just go down the list. Constable Hatfield, you want to kick it off?
I'm Constable Eric Hatfield. I'm the Ward 8 constable, which is southeast Shreveport area. And
all right, Constable McClure.
I'm Kevin McClure, Constable Ward 6 in Southwest Shreveport.
And then I know we have one more constable. However, his screen is blacked out. Whom is that?
Constable Roger Harris. I'm in Ward 3, Morningsport area, Northwest Shreveport.
Constables, thanks for coming down today. I appreciate you visiting us. I see no other constables on the board. Mr. Everson, do you show any other?
No. Now if we let Attorney Frazier.
Absolutely. I'll yield the chair to Attorney Frazier. Go ahead.
All right, I almost started reading without unmuting. But basically, the constables are elected by Justice of the Peace Wards, and they are primarily enforcement for the justice courts. Each one is elected in his own district, so he's basically his own boss, has his own seat. And they are paid partially by the parish and partially by the state. The parish commission sets the parish portion of the salary, and then it is matched by the state, and the parish is also responsible for seeing that the deputy attends necessary trainings as outlined by the Attorney General. They also receive fees from the services that they do for the justice courts in addition to their salaries, and they have a fee schedule that is determined by state statute. In addition, some constables, if they are post-certified, can act as general law enforcement officers within the state. Some may be additionally deputized by the sheriff in addition to that, or the marshal, or another general law enforcement agency within the state. And so that's what I have. I'll defer to the constables as to whether they'd like to add to that.
Mr. Everson, if you'd like, I'll give you the floor. I know you invited them down. If you had any questions, or if you just wanted to allow them the time to speak.
Okay. Yes, I'd just like to thank the constables for coming down. I've had the opportunity of working with Mr. Hatfield a while. Ken Smith is primarily in my district, whom is absent now. We've worked well together. I'm familiar with Mr. McClure and vaguely with, I think, Mr. Harris from the northern part. Just wanted to invite you down today in light of all the situations that's going on, as well as enlighten our new commissioners as to who you are and what your responsibilities are in the event that they are not familiar with it. Also like to state, not down to be ostracized or criticized. We just gathering information, and I really invite you down because of concerns to make sure that the citizens, as well as the commissioners, know your duties and your responsibilities. First of all, I'd just like to ask, you all are elected, am I correct? I'll direct this to Mr. Hatfield.
Yes,
and
sir.
When do you run, Mr. Hatfield? Do you all run same time as the commission does, odd years?
Well, we're elected for 6-year terms. We yes, sir. Our election is up. We're all running for re-election right now.
Okay, so you'll be running on the November 3rd ballot?
Yes, sir. That is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, all will be. I have seen some constables that I guess they have like the flak, well, I call them flak jackets, but I guess bulletproof vests and the dark uniform with constable on them and the things of that nature. You all are all certified to carry weapons, am I correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay, and are you post-certified? I noticed Ms. Frazier stated that if you're post-certified, that you can participate in other type activities.
So actually, the constable and the sheriff both are elected officials, so both can do the exact same thing as far as in that capacity as a law enforcement officer. Okay, now
Ms. Frazier mentioned post-certified. Are all of the constables required for that type training?
No, sir. Constables are not. It's not mandatory that a constable is. It's not one of the conditions. No. So a sheriff doesn't have to be post-certified. Neither does a constable. And I'm speaking as far as elected officials.
Okay. Now, are all the constables authorized to carry weapons?
Yes, sir. So that would be something.
It appears as though you're cutting out.
As an example, because more people know what the sheriff does than the constable. So both a sheriff and a constable, once elected, they don't have to be post-firearm certified or post-certified. However, the constables, as far as I speak for myself and probably maybe all the ones that are on here also, are all post-firearm certified. It's not something that's required for an elected law enforcement officer, but it's something that we do. One reason is so that we can have insurance that covers us, and the insurance is more likely to cover you if you're post-firearm certified. So I have that, and we've maintained it, and I think most of the other constables on here will do the same.
Okay. Of course, in carrying out your duties, have you ever encountered any belligerent person that you may be addressing?
That we may be addressing?
Right, that you may be coming out to render your duties?
Yes, sir. So I mean,
maybe it's property standards. Like we had a situation where a guy had a bunch of tires, and we had been on him for, so are any of the persons belligerent towards you?
No, sir. We really haven't done or participated in the property standards thing since I guess been 4 or 5 years ago. And I mean, the belligerents would come from people that, meth labs and people that are under the influence. But I haven't encountered anyone thus far as dealing with property standards that was belligerent or acted in such a way. However, like I said, we haven't done property standards in a while because there's no enforcement. So we as the constables can go out and we can write a warning, and then we can go back and then we can cite them if they haven't. I think it's 14 days if they haven't attempted to clean up anything. We can go back and give them a citation. After that, there's really no way to enforce it. We've had numerous meetings with the commission before over the past several years, and there's really no backing for the property standards to be enforced. So once these frequent flyers, the ones that we continue to go back and forth with, that have, like you said, the tires or things of that nature on their property, once we continue to go back and they realize the first time we couldn't enforce the citation or fine them, then they just it's lost its luster.
Ms. Frazier, so we have them issuing the property standard citation. So once that, it's just a dead end. Ms. Frazier?
No, Commissioner, what it is I think the constables, when they were enforcing property standards, had issues with the justice courts actually enforcing the citations. And so now instead they are still, we did get special legislation passed for them to write those citations, but now more often it's done by public works employees.
The enforcement end of it?
The public works issues most of the citations and they go to district court.
Okay, so district court. I just want to make sure now, because we don't want to be butting our head up against the wall and have them issue citation and then they ignore it. So there is a remedy to it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, we got that clear, because I got a hell of a case right now that I'm looking at in and out on. I was gonna say all this we've done throughout these years, it shouldn't be for now. Mr. Hatfield and any others like to chime in. Do you, let's see, I think some point in time, and correct me if I'm right, Ms. Frazier, I believe we had, once we did the property standards ordinance with the relationship with the constables, didn't we provide them with cameras?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and Hatfield, that going pretty good? You still using your camera?
No, those were, and that's been several years ago. Those were just old digital camera or old cameras that I don't know. Well, they were just, they were probably $20 cameras that you get at Walgreens or I'm not sure if they still sell those, but not to make a light of it, but everyone has a camera phone now, which works better because you can email straight from there. You can save it to a file, but it wasn't that. The problem with the property standards was we would go out and issue the warning, issue the citation, and go to justice of the peace court with them. But if the individuals didn't show up or if they didn't pay the fine, the justice of the peace couldn't go any further. So in other words, if the justice of the peace fined them $200 or $300, whatever it was, there was no way. What they essentially realized is I don't have to pay the fine because the justice of the peace can't do anything to me. And so it was kind of it lost the meat around that point.
Okay, but we got meat now. It goes to district court. Okay, so we don't want to forget that. Do you all think that you all would have any needs for body cameras?
Now that's a good question. That is something I think every law enforcement officer should wear a body camera. I think that protects the citizen and the officer. So I think that's more than beneficial. I think it's a necessity.
Any comments from any of the other gentlemen that may be present?
No, that'd be great if we could get that, but I'd like to follow up on another thing that we talked back in 2015 about. I personally talked to you about this, Mr. Everson, was trying to get some no littering signs on the sides of the roadways to cut down on all of this debris we're getting up and down the roads out through there. Do you remember what your reply was?
No.
Nope. Okay.
I don't remember what my reply was.
All right. Well, your reply back to me was that I needed to get some campaign signs and post them on the sides of the roads for no littering. And I didn't know if you were joking with me or you didn't understand my question or anything, but I'm still going to ask again. I'd like to have some no littering signs put up and also a fine posted on there in the event that we aren't able to go through the trash. You know, that's how we get about these things. When people are throwing trash on the side of the roadway, we pick their garbage up off the sides of the roadway. I go into it and I look and see if I can find a residential address there. So I can go back to that person and ask and talk to them about that and possibly issue a citation at that time. Now, I'm not going to say these are going to stop it, but they have speed limit signs all throughout the parish. Not everybody abides by the speed limit, but they know there is a consequence. And there will be a consequence posted on those signs. I think it would help the problem. And on the property standards, I'd have to agree with Mr. Hatfield. In the past, we can go over and we can go and talk to them. I go back several times to talk to these people. Some are elderly, some have heart conditions, some are just knuckleheads. They don't want to comply. But we stay with it, try to get them done and try to take care of it. Personally, on the citation part of it, I don't issue a citation. I stay with it until it's completed. I go back time and time again. I tried to work one through the commission one time before, and it took 1.5 years for it to go through there. That's when I had the last commissioner in here that I had. And I kind of lost interest in doing any of them because nothing ever really got done with it. I had to follow up behind that for over 1.5 years just to get something done with that. So it's just like Mr. Hatfield says, there's just no bite. We got lots of bark, but we got no bite.
Constable, Commissioner, I have the other constable, Mr. Harris. He would like to speak as well. If you'd allow him the opportunity to comment on that as well.
Go ahead, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, about the body cams, that would be most excellent. It would cut down on some possibilities of having some problems if people could see that we do have body cams. I mean, for my part, I'd like to have the vest too. And as far as the signs on the side of the road that posted littering, no littering, a $300, $500 fine or whatever it is, that would deter a lot of people from throwing the trash out the window. I sat down at the end of my street when they turn on my street. They dump all the trash out before they come into the neighborhood to go home, so they don't have to clean your car out.
Okay, that it, Mr. Harris? Hello?
Yes, I'm through.
Okay. Is Mr. Glass in the house? Mr. Glass? Anyone from Public Works?
Hey, Commissioner Epson, Tim and Ken is online.
Okay. No, I was just wondering to you, either Dr. Wilson or Tim.
Yes, sir.
If do we have any littering signs or any kind of warning signs relative to? I know we got bicycle.
Yeah, we should have.
Signs.
We should have signs posted, but I'll check and see. I'll make a note on that right now.
Okay.
We'll follow.
So out of the entire time the parish has been in existence, there have never been any.
We have signs. Yes, sir. We have signs. No dumping, and so on and so forth.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm talking about no littering signs placed on the sides of the roadways. I was told that we got to go through the state to get some of these signs placed on the side of Colquitt Road, up and down from where these dump sites are.
Okay.
Just
if it's a state road, yes. If it's a state road, yes. If parish road, we should be able to do it.
Right, but some of your dump sites are located on the state roads.
Right, I understand.
And you're very well correct. If these people pull up there to dump their trash, I've sit up there in front of these dumpsters before to wonder, where is all this trash coming from? I sit up there and watch them, and what they do is sometimes they will close. I addressed this 3 years ago. They were closing early because of budget restraints, and people had 10 or 15 bags of trash in the back of their trucks. When they close the gates on them, do you think that trash makes it back home? No, it's strode throughout the parish.
Okay, you got that, Dr. Wilson?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, any other comments?
Yeah, actually, Commissioner Epperson, I had Commissioner Jackson, then Lazarus, then Talaferro. They would all like to make some comments. You want me to yield the floor to Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, sir. I'm finished.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Jackson, you have the floor.
Yes, I just wanted to note that for this property standards issue or whatever that I'm hearing that's going on, y'all may want to consider looking at the Shreveport Environmental Court. I know there's an agreement with First Judicial Court, but one of the setbacks or holdups is
Commissioner Jackson, you're muted. Commissioner Jackson, you have your mute on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I'm sorry. One of the issues is that those First Judicial Court and City Court has a loaded docket, and so one of the issues is they get pushed down. The property standards issues get pushed down because they're not as severe, and so it might be worth having a conversation with Mr. Terrence Green about how it may be possible to have maybe a cooperative endeavor or something that these issues related to property standards can be specifically addressed in that environmental court. I don't care what folks have to say about the environmental court. It works. Places like Plano, Frisco, these growing cities that when you drive environmental court that stop this junk from piling up in our neighborhoods and in our parishes. So I would encourage us to take a strong look at maybe working through that environmental docket that has been set up specifically to address code enforcement. The other thing I want to run by constables is I see where the mayor just put out a mask mandate. I do have some concerns because it leaves Shreveport Police Department as the enforcement agency. I don't know right now that SPD is the proper entity to be doing enforcement, particularly when we got 5-year-olds being shot in the middle of the day and some of the other issues as it relates to how they make contact. I just wanted to throw it out to see if the constables may be open to helping with some of these mask enforcements once we put in place our mask policy. Are the constables okay with helping to enforce that?
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. I have Lazarus.
That was a question.
Right.
I'd ask the question of the constables. Were they okay with helping enforce the mask mandate? I didn't hear anything back.
Constables, I'm not sure if you heard him. It was very choppy, but Commissioner Jackson is asking, in lieu of the SPD taking care of the enforcement on the mayor's executive order, if we pass a mask ordinance at the parish level, would you guys be willing to enforce that? Constable Hatfield, I'll call on you first.
I'll defer to the other constables on that. I mean, I thought he said mass littering at first, and so I couldn't. It was kind of garbled, so I couldn't understand. So
no, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, it sounds better now. I apologize.
Okay, yeah, I was saying we're looking at doing a mask as people enter into facilities to ensure that those businesses are making sure people have masks as they enter the building. I have not seen the mayor's executive order, but I see where I hear where it tasks SPD with being the enforcement. I'm not looking so much for enforcement. I'm looking for more education. I'm not looking for people to get a $500 fine just because they're not wearing a mask. We do want to educate people. I think our mask should be in soon. And so once we get our mask in, I think we have an obligation to provide people the mask first before we issue the mask mandate, and then educate people about the mask before we start issuing fines.
Before we start to enforce anything, don't you think you ought to put some type of guideline? If, what's the consequence in the event we go?
Well, I believe that's what Commissioner Johnson was trying to do with his legislation. That got shot down. So I think we're going to have a special meeting to try and put those things in place. I think the first offense is simply, hey, here's a simple warning. Here's a mask. Here's where you can go to get a mask. Please put a mask on. And then the second offense would be just, here's we got to give you another warning or whatever, education, not so much on the enforcement, trying to take people to jail or write huge fines.
I got Constable Roger Harris on the board waving his hand. I think he wants to take this question. If Constable McClure, I don't want to take any of your time away. If you still had more to add, please do so. If not, I think Constable Harris wanted to take it.
I wouldn't want to talk. It wasn't about the mask that I was talking about. It was the enforcement of the property standards. They would go through the JP court a lot quicker if the JP court was given some teeth to use with it to require them to clean up the property if we wrote a ticket. I mean, the constables are out riding around in their areas all the time. So we're familiar with what areas or which places need to be cleaned up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, maybe what we can do is we can have a property standards meeting and address the ordinance in the property standards meeting so that we can address some of these citations. But let some people tell it out in the parish. They're perfectly fine with a lot full of junk staying next door to their house. So I don't know.
I think Commissioner Jackson, I know we got a lot of different topics going on, but on that last thing that Constable Harris just stated, if we can get the policy and procedure chair, maybe we can address that via a committee meeting, because obviously we've heard that before and time again, the lack of the teeth in the legislation. So if we can have that committee research that topic, we can move on, and then we'll get back to Commissioner Jackson's question, and then unless you have no more, we can move on to Commissioner Lazarus.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Thank you,
Commissioner Chavez. This is Attorney Frazier.
Yes.
With regard to that property standards enforcement, we did go to the state legislature and get special permission for the Justice of the Peace Courts to administer a criminal fine or a jail sentence. So the teeth are in there. If they do not choose to impose it, that's the judge choosing not to impose that. But there's legislation on the books that allows for that.
And when you say the judge, are you referring to the JP or the district?
The JP.
Okay. It sounds like I think it would be proactive if the constables and our attorney and maybe some JPs had a powwow and got together and spread the new news from the state, as well as take any Q&As at that point. Constables, I'm sure you're amenable to that. If we can work on setting that up, I think we should do that. Thank you, Constable Hatfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
I just had a comment about the signs. The area in question he's talking about is on Coffee Road. It's a state highway. So we have to have the state permission to put signs up. Once we have a location, a physical address where they want the sign, then maintenance department with the state highway department has told me that they'll be happy to put them up. So all we need is an address, and we can get that squared away. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lazarus. Commissioners, we do a lot of urging to other bodies. I think this would be a great one for Commissioner Lazarus. If Dr. Wilson, you can get Tim on that address, if we can get a precise location and throw up a resolution to urge the state to pass this. I know Constable McClure would love to see that done. I'd love to see it as well.
Yes.
And then we can get that moving forward. All right, I have Commissioner Taliaferro next online.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. And I'll address this to the constables, but I guess Eric, I know you the best. And so maybe you can just address some of these things since we have worked together in the field. The AG actually gives you your marching orders, correct? I mean, you fall under his or her purview, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All righty. So the reason I bring that up is because any kind of enforcement that we may decide to implement regarding mask wearing or anything like that would probably have to go through his office for approval. Wouldn't you agree?
Possibly. That would definitely be a question or an opinion that would be need to be sent to the Attorney General. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I may or may not be correct on that, but I would think that he would want to have his blessing since he determines your rules of engagement as far as operating in the parishes throughout the state of Louisiana. What I've seen in the past, Eric, is do you feel that we don't do education well regarding your profession? In other words, are there people out there who still don't know what a constable does? They see a constable's car writing a citation or out on a vehicle stop, and they're wondering what the heck is going on here. Do you think we could do a better job at educating the public on the duties and the responsibilities of the constables since they are the law enforcement arm of the parish?
It's possible, man. I mean, I don't, as far as the commission, I mean, the commission's always done a good job supporting the constables, but you are correct. I mean, a lot of times when we do a traffic stop or we're out, on a citation, whatever it is, a lot of times they say, what is a constable? And so people are very familiar with, city officers and the sheriff and the marshal and things of that nature. And so, but not so much as the constable. So I do agree with that. And actually 15 years ago when I first started, I mean, I got it almost every day. People didn't have any idea that we even had constables. And so I think that with social media and whatever reason people are aware of it now. So I think the commission does a good job, and I think it's just one of those things that's we're a smaller agency, and just not always in the spotlight.
Okay, great. Do you? I know that we brought up the vests and also the body cams. Obviously, we're both in favor of wearing both. Would you enlighten some of those commissioners who may not know how you get your equipment?
Well, I mean, a lot of times we buy it. Well, actually, all the time we buy it ourselves. No one provides us with any. No one outfits us, provides us with any equipment. We provide our own equipment for ourselves. Especially when it's in the name of safety. I mean, it's definitely a good investment on our own part and for our families to buy our own vests and anything else that we may need. But I don't know that any of us have body cameras.
So it's safe to presume that one constable may be outfitted with different safety equipment than another. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I agree with you, definitely.
And wouldn't it be beneficial if all were outfitted the same way in the event? Now, this is the wartime thing coming out of me, that if an officer goes down, you know exactly where their gear is, or they have that certain gear that you may need.
Yes, sir. I agree. I couldn't agree more.
Okay. And then regarding the post certification, do you believe it would be beneficial for constables to be post certified? In other words, would it lend more credibility if you were, or do you see that that's not an issue?
No, I agree. It definitely would. 100%. I mean, provide a lot of training for me. The Attorney General's office has. I've done some at the Sheriff's office in different places and different sheriff's agencies throughout state. But yes, I mean, I think that especially in light of recent events, every single law enforcement officer should receive as much training as possible, and it needs to be, you know, good training from an accredited agency.
So you would be in favor of, you know, getting as much training for you and other fellow constables as possible, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay. And one final question. Do you any of your fellow constables maintain a professional Facebook or Twitter account or anything like that for our residents to engage, or for you to educate on what your responsibilities are, what you're there to do, so forth and so on? Maybe some of you even have websites. I'm not sure.
Yes, sir. Constable, I think mine is Constable Eric Hatfield on social media, and I do that. So we, you know, I mean, whatever we can do to educate the public, not only as to what we do, but what's going on in our areas. If there's a sudden influx of break-ins or car burglaries or anything like that, we try to post that and keep the citizens up to date. But yes, we do use every available outlet. Social media, you know, is good and bad, but as far as in respect to that, it is effective.
Commissioner Talaferro, is that all?
Sorry, I got button happy and kind of exited by mistakes. And one final question. I know I said that before. Eric, do you believe that you and your fellow constables get necessary support from the other law enforcement agencies throughout the parish?
You would.
Okay, I loaded that question for you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
You would. I think that was directed. I see Constable Thur's got a little grin on his face also, so he's grateful now that I'm the one answering this question and not him. We definitely enjoy the support of the Caddo Parish Commission, the Shreveport Police Department, and I'll just to stay somewhat politically correct, we do get a lot of support from SPD, from the state police, from those agencies, and we appreciate that support. And we would obviously.
Right, the working relationship is because every time I've run into you in the field and so forth, we've always had a great working relationship. Yeah,
I agree with that, and I appreciate that relationship.
All right, thank you, Eric. I appreciate you all bringing on the call today. Mr. President, I yield to you.
Thank you, Commissioner Taliaferro, and I'm with you on. I know Constable Hatfield the best, so I tend to ask him all the questions because I don't know Constable McClure or Young. But I want to give them the opportunity to take those questions if you'd like, Constable McClure or Constable Young, if you'd like to take the questions that Commissioner Talaferro.
Wasn't necessarily a question, but something I may add is the sheriff in 2015 had offered for some additional continuous training to the constables at a meeting we had there at the sheriff's office. He had offered it to a number of the constables out there if they felt that their departments needed that. And he offered that at that time. Steve Prater did. And I don't know if we could still take him up on that or not, to go with Mr. Talaferro's suggestion that some additional training may be needed for constables. But the sheriff did offer that at that time. And the sheriff's office has worked in conjunction with everything that's going on out in the parish. If we have a problem, personally, if I had a problem with anything, that's the first person that I would call, would be the sheriff. That's all I got to say.
I agree with that. Attorney Fraser, I see you with your hand raised. Please go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify something, that the constables are not the law enforcement arm of the parish. The parish does not have a law enforcement arm. The constables are elected to their own district and responsible to their electors, supervised by the people that elect them and the attorney general. There is no law enforcement arm of the parish.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Attorney Fraser. So let me ask you this, Attorney Fraser, on that same topic. The constables, we obviously pay their salary, but if we wanted to see fit that they were post-certified, obviously we can pay for that because we pay for a lot of stuff that's not in our purview. But if we did want to deem them post-certified, who would we reach out to that would normally pick up the bill? You say they fall under the Attorney General. Is that a function of the Attorney General that should fund the post-certification of the constables?
As of right now, it would be up to each constable as to whether or not the constable wish to pursue post-certification, they would do that at their own expense. If the parish was to provide that, we would have to do it through a cooperative endeavor agreement with obligations on the constable and obligations on the parish, so that it's not an illegal donation, but you would do that individually with each constable.
Can you get me the cost measures of that, Attorney Frazier? I don't think looking at the two constables I can see on the screen are going to be against the parish providing additional training for them at no cost to themselves to help them do their job better. And I think it would serve the people of Caddo Parish a lot better as well.
Well, and that, I mean, that's fine. It is not a qualification that they must have to run for office, and it's primarily to enforce their weapons training. So some may be interested and some may not be. Basically, it would empower them to make arrests in a wider jurisdiction than what they may do or in their current jurisdiction, but that may not be something that they are all interested in having if they don't have it already. And if they have it already, they've basically taken it either through the police department academy or the sheriff's office academy. So we can check with them as to what the costs are. But say, for instance, I just want to make it clear, if somebody did not want to be post-certified, there is no mechanism by which to make them become post-certified, because it's not a qualification of the office.
I understand. I don't know Constable McClure that well, but judging by the background, he would be a good shot. And I could trust him with a weapon if he showed up on the scene. However, we don't know every constable that gets elected and what they're gonna.
I used to work for the sheriff's office.
It would save us some money if they were already post-certified, but after they get elected, I think it would be better for everybody. So let's just figure out how much it would cost. There may only be 2 or 3 constables left that are not post-certified, but I know the essence of what Commissioner Epperson would like is obviously better training for all law enforcement involved, with whatever kind of training that we can offer. Commissioners, I see nobody else on the board. I want to give you the opportunity. I see Constable Roger Harris just got on the board, so we'll yield to him. Constable Harris?
Yes, sir. What about the deputies? Would you include them in the post-certification? The deputy constables?
That's a good question. Likewise, if we have individuals working for the parish, or that the parish is ultimately responsible for, and they're carrying weapons, I personally would like to see them have training on those weapons. Of course, I'm only one of 12, so I'd have to ask the other 11, but that brings up a good point. Thank you, Constable.
Yeah, my deputy's ex-military. He hits what he shoots at. On target, you know. But and I'm just an old country fella from out in the sticks, so pretty well can too. But I think that would be an excellent idea.
All right, Vice President Johnson, you have the floor.
Thank you. I think I want to make sure that I remember this right, but I think each constable now only has 1 deputy. And that's by state statute. Am I right?
Some of us don't have either.
Okay, but you can at least have 1 as a max.
That's correct.
Okay, and then as far as helping the constables, I think that, you know, what we should do, if we're gonna offer to help those constables, that we ask them to create a top 3 wish list. Some might be already post-certified, don't need that. Some might want a body cams. One might want a bulletproof vest. I mean, we ought to at least see what the top 3 wish list is before we just volunteer to do post-certification, and they might not even want that, or they already have it. So I just think that if we're going to do something like that, that we ought to at least give them opportunity to give a top 3 wish list.
I would agree. I agree, Vice President, 100%. I think we've heard so far body cams, no littering signs, and post-certification. So we're definitely on the road. Commissioner Hopkins.
I don't have anything.
Okay, I saw you waving. Constable Hatfield, were you waving or did you want to speak?
No, I was just when Commissioner Johnson just said he was talking about us having only one deputy. There was a time when the constables could have as many deputies as they wanted, and then unfortunately, one of the constables made a bad decision to run for sheriff, and it ended that. So right now we only have one deputy, and that makes it less expensive on the commission if they were going to pay for anything. So you're welcome.
Thank you, Constable Hatfield. Any other commissioners would like to get on
Taylor
board?
only had one deputy.
Go ahead, Commissioner Epperson.
If everyone is finished, I just wanted to thank the constables for coming down. I think this dialogue has been very insightful. And if memory serves me correct, we had a special committee that convened to address issues with the constables. And I think we may be at that point in time where we need to convene another one. So that's why I asked for them to come down today, and appreciate them coming down. And I've learned something myself, and I'm pretty sure a lot of others have learned something. Thank you all once again.
And thank you all for having us.
Constable Hatfield, Young, McClure, thanks for coming down, guys. I know you have a lot to do. You don't want to watch our video all afternoon, but you're welcome to stay.
Thank y'all very much. We appreciate y'all having us.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Mr. Everson, we'll move on.
Commissioner Chavez, the next thing on our agenda was a citizen who had reached out, Ken Kraft, who typically recites the Declaration of Independence. We do have a video, but we could withhold that to play at the end of the meeting, or we could play that now. It's up to you. But we do have a video that we could share of his reading of the Declaration. It's a dramatic reading of the Declaration of Independence.
I move that we play the video at the end of the meeting. Second.
I got a second by Paul Young. I believe that motion was made by Commissioner Epperson or Commissioner Jackson.
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 It was a lot of bass in the voice. It was one of the two. So we got a motion to read that at the end, and second by Commissioner Young. Looks like it passes by acclamation.
That brings us to the reports. Under administrator report, we'll have the June 2020 financials in a moment. But first, I want to just draw your attention to the certificate of teleconference that is attached, in case anybody needs to reference that. Also, the June 2020 financials are attached, and this time, I don't know if the administration has a report.
I do have a point of clarification before Dr. Wilson starts.
Yeah, Dr. Wilson, I have Vice President Johnson on the floor.
Go right ahead, sir. Go ahead.
And it was back to the Declaration of Independence. Who put that on the agenda?
That was a request from Commissioner Chavez to accommodate Mr. Kraft, and then I just added it under visitors.
He wanted to come down to our meeting in person, and I'm sure he probably wanted to wear an outfit, but he said because of COVID, he would like to video himself and share it with us. So I said, sure.
Okay, so I guess in future reference, that if there is something like that on the agenda that has to be a sponsoring commissioner, it just can't be put on there and not have any kind of sponsorship. That's all. Thank you. I learned that from Todd Hopkins.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson.
Dr. Wilson, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. I'll be very brief today. The only thing we had was the financial reports for June, which the clerks already mentioned that to you all. So you should have gotten it in an email. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Otherwise, that's all we have for today, unless you'll have something for me.
Dr. Wilson, I have Commissioner Young on the board. Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, I had a question. We've been speculating about CARES Act funding that's available through the parish for use that could be reimbursable. Do you have any idea how many claims, like what our total funding is, how many claims have been made on it, and what remains of our expendable funds that could be reimbursed?
Yes, sir. We can, I'll have Ms. Haley give you an update of what we already submitted for already. Ms. Haley?
Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Currently, with the CARES Act, we have only been able to request reimbursement through the end of April. That's the only application period that's been opened. I did submit all of our requests for that, and at this point, it's I don't have the document right in front of me, but it's a little over $80,000 that we've requested reimbursement for at this point. The next application period will be a lot bigger because it's when we started doing a lot of the plexiglass and those sorts of things. That application has not opened, but that reimbursement request is going to be more like 150,000. And then as we continue to open up periods of time, each application is for a certain period of time. We'll have more requests, such as the mask that we just purchased and other things. So it's kind of accumulating as they open up the applications. But right now, the only application that's been opened is any expenses through April. So that's all I've been able to request at this time.
So Ms. Haley, the mobile testing with the funding of the LSU Health Sciences Center will come at the next round at the end of the year.
It has to be, you can only request reimbursement once we've paid the funds and the check has cleared. So we have to wait for that transaction to be complete. But any expenses that we had as far as signage and tents and portlets and all that at the different testing, we will request reimbursement for those when the application process opens. The first application was mostly some salaries and then the disinfectant of the buildings, because every expense you have to turn in a cancel check. And so if the expense hasn't cleared the bank, I couldn't request reimbursement for it just yet.
Right. Okay.
Just the second part of my question is do you know what the upper limit of what we can ask for reimbursement is? Like, is it?
There's not a limit by parish or by entity that I'm aware of. It is, I think it's by parish. And that when we say parish, it's every entity within that parish. And I'm not sure of what maybe the city or the sheriff or other entities has asked for. So I can't really speak to what might be available for us, but I can tell you that we're requesting every penny that we spent for reimbursement.
Is there somebody who is mediating all those different requests together so that we know what the total is and we're sure that we don't end up asking for too much, or is it not organized in that way yet?
I don't believe it's organized that way yet, sir.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's the way it appears to me at this time. It's just get in your application with your reimbursement request as soon as you have it available. I actually emailed today my contact down at the state to see when the next application would be available, so that the day that application time period opens up, I'm ready to submit day one. So I'm doing everything to get our reimbursement request in there as soon as they open the gate. But at this point, I can ask and see if she can tell me what Caddo Parish as a whole has requested at this point, just to see if she knows. But at this point, it's not organized to where you have one person where it all flows through. It's kind of like we're all just running after the same bucket.
Right. Well, so my thought is it wouldn't need to be one person that it all flows through, but it would be good, since we're the governing authority of the parish, it would be good for us to keep track of the total, the running total that's being requested for reimbursement, so that we know we don't spend money expecting it to be reimbursed and then find out that, you know, we've asked for too much.
Yeah, well, I can send an email just to see if she could send me what maybe Caddo Parish as a total has asked for, all entities in Caddo Parish, and see if that's something that's available, and get back with you.
That would be terrific. I appreciate it. Thank you. That's all, Mr.
No problem.
President.
Thanks, Commissioner Young. Do I have any other commissioners on the board to request any information from administration? I see none. Mr. Everson, we move along.
Okay, let's see, that brings us to commission remarks and communiques and reports.
All right, I know Vice President had something. And any other commissioners that would like to get on their communiques, go ahead and get on the board.
My hand should be raised.
Yes, I'd like to, at this point, make a motion to have a special meeting called for Wednesday.
Second.
To have two items on the agenda. One is the special ordinance, the emergency ordinance on the mask, and the other one is on the COVID threat level.
Second.
Do you have a specific time, Commissioner Johnson, for Wednesday?
Time wise,
12:30.
12:30 will work.
12:30 on Wednesday?
Yes.
All right. I got motion on the floor for a special session on Wednesday at 12:30 and a second by Commissioner Young. Commissioner Johnson, would you like to speak on your motion?
No, I think just as yes, just as Commissioner Jackson stated that the mayor of Shreveport, Adrian Perkins, has already did a mandatory mask wearing for Shreveport. This will go well to include the whole parish, and Shreveport is basically most of the parish, especially as far as population goes. And the threat level basically gives the community transparency to know why we say that you need to have the mask on. I think just by giving them mandatory statements, a lot of citizens will be upset, but the threat level kind of goes into and say why you should be wearing it. And so I think the two go hand in hand, and it's something that we should do as for the good of the community. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jackson and then Burrell.
Yes, I was actually on for the for administration response for the June monthly financials. Haley, Dr. Wilson, is
Yes,
there
sir.
anything that stands out?
No, would you like to address that, Ms. Haley? I don't see anything that stands out. Do you?
No, sir. Everything is to be expected at this point. I have been sending you guys the updated revenue that's coming in from the riverboat. As y'all all expected, the decline. That's the only thing that would really differ from this time of last year. Everything else seems to be about the same.
And then Dr. Wilson, I think even though our riverboat monies have declined, I would imagine that some of our other revenues or some of our other expenses that we would have had budgeted, such as traveling, gas miles, and things like that.
Oh, yeah. It's obviously it went
shifted
down.
around.
Yes,
And
sir.
should be significant for so.
Yes, sir. It's significantly lower.
Okay.
We have been traveling, but at the same time, oil and gas revenues have been going up as well.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. Good. Well, if we just could, to kind of piggyback on the question about the CARES Act, I too would like to know what our amount is still left, because I know the state took out $300 million for the small business program. We were initially allocated $14 million for Caddo Parish as a whole.
Right.
I think that the sheriff's office make a request for some funding. They let the city of Shreveport make a request for some funding. So once they back all of those expenses out, it'll be good to know what's still left for Caddo Parish. And just one thing to note, that if we do not spend all of our CARES Act money, first they send it to another parish, and then it goes back to the state treasury. That's it for me on the administration. That's all I have for administration.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrell, I know you're on the board.
He's muted.
Host, will you unmute Commissioner
Yeah.
Burrell?
Yeah, I can unmute myself. Yeah, Mr. President, I want to make sure that this is the junction which I can ask the questions on the items that's supposed to be added. And we was trying to add them earlier, but we did not, and we brought them down to here where Commissioner Johnson has requested a meeting to talk about those two issues. I had a point of clarification on those on the issue of threat levels. Is that it? Can we do it at this point?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I had two questions as I asked before. I do support the idea from the beginning so that there will be no question on that. But if we are to address the severity of COVID by establishing a threat level similar to the one in Harrison County, Texas, is what I understand, then will this apply to Caddo Parish only, or the city of Shreveport and Caddo Parish, and who will administer it? Would it be Homeland Security? How will we administer it? And I guess there's a third one. Will this threat level be recommended to the state? Since it sounds like it can be something that we can all, use to get on board, so that we wouldn't have a lot of mixed messages going out there in the community. That would be my concern.
I got you. On that three-part question, Commissioner Burrell, I know we'll get more in depth in the special session on Wednesday. We're about to vote on having it on Wednesday, if you agree to it, which it sounds like you do. I'll let Attorney Frazier answer the first question, and if Vice President Johnson will get with Commissioner Burrell offline on the second two, and then we can address those answers on Wednesday, because I know they're not formulated in that current ordinance that he's brought forward. But Attorney Frazier, take that first question if you would.
Well, I'll just give it to you as food for thought. You don't even have to address any of them.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's the thing. I just want to make sure that we are clear on this, since we're not familiar with it. At least I'm not familiar with it, and I know it's something that's being brought forth in this meeting.
Commissioner Burrell, it's very similar to the one that's in Harris County, not Harrison, but Harris County, and
Okay.
And so I just basically did it for Caddo Parish. I wrote this one for Caddo Parish only, which includes all of the cities. Yeah. I didn't try to do it statewide. And the reason I think now is we're looking at states are actually starting to do their own individual things. And then some of the hot spots are actually doing their thing as well within the state. But I mean, the governor's executive order is the minimum, but you can always go above that. But you can't go below it. So this is just something that helps us to justify why we're at a certain level.
Okay, well, again, I appreciate that. I'm not familiar with the Harris County. I just have to go and research it. But at the same time, if the mayor is getting ready to do something in conjunction similar, not threat level, and we're going to be doing it in Caddo Parish, then are we going to be coordinating that with the city, or that's something that we are going to do as a commission?
Say that question again.
The commission.
No, I said
okay.
That we know that the mayor is getting ready to do something in conjunction with masks and right. All of that, and that also has to do with whether or not we should be concerned about where we are in terms of the threat levels. Will we be administering this threat level warning similar to
Yes.
other threat levels, security threat levels, and that kind of thing? Or will the city play a role in this since they are in the parish?
We will, and then we will ask the city council for their next meeting to adopt our resolution.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. I have Commissioner Young, then Watts, then Taliaferro.
I just want to check before I speak. Is Commissioner Hopkins in the line?
Yes.
I think he's before me, Mr.
Okay,
President.
I didn't see him up here on the board. Commissioner Hopkins, go ahead.
And I'm fine with the Wednesday meeting as long as I have all the information, both the ordinance and the resolution. What I do have a question on, are we not circumventing our agenda addition again? Now we're going to vote on something not on our agenda? I guess that's illegal.
Commissioner, this, actually, you would have voted on it earlier. However, he was told to bring it up at this time by the chair when it was attempted to be brought up during the agenda addition portion. So, I mean, it's an action item because there was notice at the beginning of the meeting that you all were going to take action with regard to these items. And then you will have a notice to go out before your meeting on Wednesday. So all the notice requirements will be met.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Hopkins. I see what you mean. I think if we were going under the expand the agenda to add one no vote would kill it. However, let's be honest, Commissioner Vice President Johnson could just call for the special session anyway. I think it as a courtesy, we should just do it anyway because it would be longer than the 24-hour period. So playing politics in this situation, ultimately, I know that the citizens, as we've heard under the communiques, would like to see this addressed. So I'd like to give Vice President the respect and the affordability of adding this, and we vote on it now for Wednesday's meeting. Commissioner Young, go ahead.
Before we vote on the special meeting, I just wanted to check and make sure that the time worked for everybody. I texted with some people and some said maybe they would be available, maybe they wouldn't after a certain time. If there's a way for us to check that time works for everyone, that would be great. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Watts. Stormy, can you hear us?
Am I unmuted? Yes, I can hear you. Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'm glad that you said something that I want to reiterate about playing politics. And I really hate that we are having to come back to do a special meeting after hearing so many public pleas from our citizens about mandating masks. However, I do understand the concept, and I am asking you all to please vote in support of this. I mean, us coming back to add this item could possibly have saved more lives if we would have voted on it today. And I don't understand why Caddo always has to be last in doing things. I mean, there's breaking news going on right now that Shreveport has already executed a mandate for masks. Texas, and here we are in Caddo with the option to be proactive, and now we're being reactive. I think sometimes we take too long to make the decisions that count the most. However, with all of the lives that are at stake right now, and we know what does work, like wearing masks, washing hands, and practicing physical distance, I think that we all should take a long look at our obligations to protect the citizens of Caddo Parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Watts. Commissioner Taliaferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Really, I just wanted to kind of echo Councilman, sorry, I was talking in different arena here. Commissioner Burrell, in that, you know, I want to make sure that we are all in alignment here regarding the parish and the city. Obviously, we want to be, we want to go, I would say go along, but we want to support, you know, what the city's going to be doing when appropriate. I, for one, I practice, you know, doing everything that the CDC says that we should do, that the governor says that we should do, that Martha White says we should do. I don't wear a mask everywhere I go. I know when I'm going to be in close quarters and I carry a mask with me. So I am responsible for my safety as well as yours, and I take that very seriously. So anyway, I'm all for doing the special session to discuss it a little further. I'm not saying I'm a strong proponent, but I'm always willing to give my fellow commissioners the opportunity to voice their concerns. And I think this is healthy. I'm not sure what's coming out of the city. I haven't heard anything but except for some of my fellow commissioners that it's already been mandated. So if that's the case, then I think we should probably ask the council for something in writing saying that that's actually in effect. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Taliaferro. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I actually think that the order that came out, or the conversation that came out from the city of Shreveport today, should have at least waited. I don't know that Commissioner Chavez, that you all have had we normally would have EOC meetings to discuss what's going to be issued. And so Commissioner Burrell, Commissioner Taliaferro, I applaud Commissioner Gage Washington Johnson for moving forward. But what should have happened, and the reason why we have this Caddo GOSEP coalition, is that things are supposed to be discussed before these emergency orders are put out. And the state constitution empowers the parish under these emergency orders. And so no federal or state resources can be tapped into if the parish does not act. And so Dr. Wilson, Attorney Frazier, Ms. Bryant, Commissioner Chavez, I would encourage y'all to re-engage that Homeland Security Committee, the sheriff, and make sure that we're all speaking on one accord, because I agree, if you got the city pushing one thing and the parish pushing something else, then we all got two different things going and folks are confused. But the city should have at least waited until they had a conversation with the parish and the sheriff first, since Homeland Security is coordinated beyond the city of Shreveport. And that's something that we need to start doing, because people get confused in these times. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Well said. Dr. Wilson, will you reach out to the sheriff
Yes, sir.
and invite him and Martha White to the special session? I'd like to get their opinions on that. Obviously, it's too late for the city, but we can still work together on that, and then we'll get the city involved in it as well. I see no other commissioners on there. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
That motion passes with 12 in support and none in opposition. And so we are still under communiques at this time.
Any other commissioners want to get on the board or wave at me if you can't? I see none. We'll move
Mr.
along.
Chairman,
Yes, sir. Commissioner Burrell, go ahead.
we do have another section later on that I'll comment on our meeting with Sheriff Prater. We don't have to do it now.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Mr. Everson, we'll move along.
Okay, next is President's report.
I'll yield till Thursday.
Great. We do not have any old business before us at the time, so this brings us to new business. The first item is authorize the introduction of ordinance number 5961 of 2020. It's an ordinance amending and reenacting sections 4-61 and 4-61.1 and enacting section 4-63, 4-64, and 4-65, all of chapter 4 of the Code of Ordinances of the Parish of Caddo pertaining to permits for the sale of alcoholic beverages and alcoholic beverage handling cards and otherwise pertaining thereto.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hopkins,
Second.
Second by Commissioner Young. Commissioner
Second.
Hopkins, speak on your motion.
Yeah, basically what this will do, it will take and set up a committee to see and hear these alcohol violations. A committee of 5 that the president will put on there, and then they'll hear the sheriff's department's information. They'll hear from the business, and that committee will make a recommendation to the full body. It has become hard in the last couple of years for the full body to meet and have a quorum. So this will be a little easier in meeting the quorums. It will also lower the initial first offense and second offense, but leave the third offense at the current rate. It also creates a alcohol beverage committee that will will also meet and go over if there need to be changes in the future to this ordinance or any other things like handling cards and things like that. And it allows us an opportunity to meet with the sheriff and possibly DA in the future and get some of these things we've had in the past, some opposition addressed. And then it just 464 basically states and lays out the process for the committee. And that's all there is to it.
Thank you, Commissioner Hopkins. Do I have any other commissioners that would like to speak on this? I see none. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Burrell, I think you're muted. Commissioner Cawthorn,
No.
Commissioner Gage Watts, Commissioner Talaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Yes.
Commissioner Epperson.
No.
Okay, so now if somebody heard differently, let me know, but I heard that to be 6 in support, 3 in opposition, and 2 absent.
I'm having some technical issues over here. I actually had a question before y'all.
Okay. I heard, I think Commissioner Burrell said yes, but
Okay, thank you. Is that accurate, Commissioner Burrell?
Yes, I think it was.
Thank you very much.
and then Commissioner Jackson, let's give you the floor. I want you to.
Yeah, I mean, I was really just I was curious why we were lowering the fine. That's my objection, but I don't know. It seemed like it advances anyway.
It's did you get a chance to vote, Commissioner Jackson?
Right now I'll just do no. I don't understand why we're lowering the fines, but I'll get with Commissioner Hopkins going forward. I want to get some clarity on lowering the fines.
Okay.
But
all right,
I'm just confused right now.
We'll revisit this Thursday then. I appreciate you, commissioners.
In summary, just for the record here, that motion does carry with 7 in support, 4 in opposition, and 1 absent.
All right.
That brings us to, let's see, authorizing resolution number 51 of 2020, an ordinance to authorize the Caddo Parish Administrator to request and authorize the Louisiana State Mineral and
Move to
Energy
advance. Motion to advance by Commissioner Atkins. And
Second.
by Young.
Second.
Who was the second?
Commissioner Young was, and Commissioner Atkins, would you like to speak on that motion?
No, I actually have a question. I wasn't trying to second.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Lazarus seconded, so I'll let Commissioner Atkins explain his motion, then we'll get Young on the board.
Yeah, it appears that there's an attempt to lease acreage under under roads and that are controlled by the parish, and our parish administration has worked hard on these leases over the years. I've reviewed the lease and it has vertical pew clause and horizontal pew clause, and it seemed to be well prepared. So I'd be supportive of these leases.
Commissioner Atkins, host, while we got you, Mr. Everson, Stormy said she can't hear anybody. I don't know if maybe you can check her connection, but while you guys do that, Commissioner Young, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I was wondering, it might be my own oversight. I didn't see a map where these places were. Are they? So it's been brought to my attention recently that there are some drilling leases, I think they might be federal though, that are on the borders of Cross Lake. And they were a little controversial because they abut our drinking supply as a city. And I wondered if these are those leases or if they're different or where they're located. Just curious.
Dr. Wilson, you take that question?
Yeah, I was thinking this in West Shreveport, but I need to verify that for you.
No. North Shreveport.
North Shreveport?
1 and 2. So one is on the north. They got some on the north side of Cross Lake, and then further north. So John Paul, you are correct that Cross Lake is in close proximity to some of the drill sites.
Okay, so regarding that, my understanding was that the Bureau of Land Management had an open comment process that was somewhat interrupted by the pandemic, and notice was not adequately given to the population who would be affected by this, as their drinking water supply is right next to it. I don't know much about oil drilling or its safety next to our drinking water supply, but many of my constituents raised this concern to me, and I just wanted to have it available to discuss.
Any drilling in the Cross Lake watershed impacts Cross Lake. So, and that watershed already has wells in it. So, what's to be different?
Yeah. Commissioner Johnson, I totally agree with you about the watershed. My question is, the proximity to the watershed means that any spill or problem wouldn't be diluted by as much terrain and soil before it enters our watershed, and could cause, if there's a problem, if there's a catastrophe, could cause a serious problem for our drinking water supply that we haven't envisioned. And I just wanted us to be aware of it, and that's all.
Yeah, Commissioner Young, let me suggest that we do this. I can have Mr. Glass talk to you tomorrow morning. And, he's out because one of his family members had surgery yesterday, I believe. So we can, I have him bring you up to speed on the environmental impact, if there's any at all on that, before you have to vote on it on Thursday.
Thank you.
Point of clarification or information?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Burrell.
I didn't recognize when I was reading this that it was that close to Cross Lake. As some of you know, I've been dealing with the I-49 inner city issue, which one of the main issues that we have with it is to possibly not reinforce I-220 that would cause any unrest in Cross Lake that would jeopardize our water supply for the next 20 or 30 years. So I don't know how close this is. I know fracking is an issue. I don't know if they've outlawed it. I don't think they have. But if that and also directional drilling, I would be very concerned about those issues as it relates to this, Mr. President.
Dr. Wilson, it sounds like we have a couple more than just one commissioner. Would you make sure that Mr. Glass types up a memo and shoots it over to all the commissioners?
Yes, sir, I will.
We can get that information out before Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Burrell.
I think I missed my window, and I think you allowed me to do that after I thought that was we were running through the agenda and on the commission's comments. I guess we kind of blew through that, but I did want to not address fully our meeting with the chief, but I wanted to, in the light that the constables came, I wanted to encourage him to come and meet with us for Thursday. I was going to go through some of the questions and put them in record, but we don't have to do that at this juncture. But I'm just kind of throwing that out since we're on we are communicating with the public at this time.
Absolutely. We'll bring that up later on in the second communique round. Commissioner Atkins, hang tight. I have Commissioner Jackson on the board from the get-go after your motion. Commissioner Jackson, did you want to make a comment on this?
No.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. You all raise a good point about the watershed. And if some of these roads are along the shore of Cross Lake or in close proximity to Cross Lake, I would certainly be supportive of carving them out. But just want to remind everybody that we're most likely here talking about natural gas reserves, dry gas reserves. While there's always a small possibility of a mishap, in general, these gas wells would not have the pollutant threat that an oil well would have. So just something to consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. See no other commissioners on the board. Mr. Everson.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure my mute was off. Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
No.
Commissioner Burrell.
No.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts. I know I saw her back on here. Commissioner Gage Watts, I can't hear you. Are you there?
I'm here. I'm trying.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Taliaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries with 10 in support and 2 in opposition. And that brings us to authorized resolution number 52 of 2020. The resolution urging and requesting area realtors to inform prospective buyers of property standards ordinances, restrictive covenants, and neighborhood and homeowner association obligations, and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Recommend moving forward to Thursday.
Second.
Commissioner Epperson and seconded by Commissioner Watts. Commissioner Epperson, would you like to speak on that motion?
Mr. Burrell, you have a point of information out of
Yes.
yell at him.
Yes, sir. The only point, Commissioner Epperson, is the recommendation that Hugh, that was read off earlier from Hugh, was it? I don't know if there was a friendly amendment. I don't remember anybody making an amendment to it, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware that was given. I don't know if you accepted it or not, because I don't think we ever voted on it.
I'm
make a clarification.
I'm aware of it, and I'm good with the resolution as it's drafted. In order, we already have a resolution in place, 53 of 2014, I think it was. All this does is add neighborhood associations and homeowners associations. Nothing binding or anything. Got a lot of good response from it. Matter of fact, a lot of the sellers said it enhanced their sales when they know that you got homeowners association and certain things ahead of time that they know that they can or can't do when they buy property.
Okay, well, I know he had mentioned something about the definition of realtor, but if you're comfortable with that, I'm comfortable with it.
I'm comfortable with the way it's presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. And I have Commissioner Taliaferro on the board.
Thank you, Mr. President. As a licensed realtor, I do appreciate Mr. Scott Hughes, who's the president of the local realtors up here in Northwest Louisiana, for his insight and his guidance. I would like to see the language that he suggested kind of woven into the current resolution by Commissioner Epperson. It is very important that we be very specific on who this is going to affect. And when you say a licensed realtor, and not include a lot of the other opportunity, or a lot of the other entities or other people that actually sell real estate that are not licensed realtors, I think you do them an injustice and you single them out. So I would request that we do take some of the recommendations, not rush to judgment to pass this, but actually look where we could take and construct a meaningful document as Mr. Scott Hughes recommended. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Farrow. I see no other commissioners. Mr. Everson?
Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yeah.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
No.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus,
No.
and Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries with 10 in support and 2 in opposition. And that brings us, by the way, there was a resolution from 2014 that was mentioned, just for the record. That is resolution number 53 of 2014, and that is attached. Our next item is authorized resolution 53 of 2020. It's a resolution of final acceptance of state project number H.013389.6 regarding Caddo Parish bicyclist awareness.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Got a motion by Jackson. Yes, sir, Commissioner Everson.
I'm getting some text that we're freezing. Are we still live streaming? Everything is good?
Yes, sir. I can see the live stream right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I believe that was Commissioner Jackson, correct? That made that motion?
Yes.
Okay, and seconded by Commissioner Hopkins. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on that motion?
I actually would like to in globo and advance resolution number 53, resolution number 54, resolution number 55.
Second.
Second.
Who was the second on that?
That was me with the bass.
Mr. Johnson.
I second, but no one can hear me.
He can have.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. So
All right, we got a motion on the floor to englobo and advance resolution 53, 54, and 55. Is just a point of clarification, was 55 the agenda addition?
No.
No.
Oh, okay, just checking. All right. I see no commissioners on the board. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro,
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus, Commissioner Lazarus, I didn't hear it. Commissioner
No.
Epperson. Oh, okay. Thank you. I did hear that. Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries with 11 in support and 1 in opposition. And that brings us to item number 11.7, that's authorize the appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire April 10th of 2023.
Move to advance to Thursday.
Second.
All right, got a motion to advance to Thursday and by Commissioner Atkins, seconded by Commissioner John Paul Young. Commissioner Atkins, would you like to speak on that?
We have a good solid business person here who has a desire to serve on the ZBA, has lots of practical knowledge in business and real estate, and would be a great addition to the ZBA. I hope that I can encourage you all to consider his approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Jackson, I see your hand raised. Is that from now or before? I'm going to assume it was from before. I see no other commissioners on the board. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
I like to
Commissioner
global. I was going to do it global in advance.
Hey, I'm sorry, I'm hearing a few people at once.
I would like it global in advance. The appointment for Mr. Huey Horn, the appointment for the North Caddo Medical Center, authorize the special resolution for CPAS, authorize special resolution for Miss Muriel Burns, authorize special remembrance of Dr. Charlie M. Lester, and authorize special resolution for Miss Sophia.
Second.
I don't want to mispronounce her name. Look like
Nicolosi.
Thank you.
All right. Got a motion to global in advance and a second by Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Young, did you have a question? You wanted a second. Okay. All right. Mr. Everson, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Johnson, I didn't hear you if you responded. Commissioner Jackson.
But you got to unmute me. Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson. Yes. Commissioner
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Burrell.
Yes.
Commissioner Cawthorn.
Yes.
Commissioner Gage Watt.
Yes.
Commissioner Taliaferro.
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez.
Yes.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Yes.
That motion passes with 12 in support and none in opposition.
All right.
And that brings us to communiques and committee reports.
Commissioner Burrell, I know you want to give us the report on the sheriff.
Well, I'm gonna actually just address it, Mr. Chairman, from the standpoint that we did meet with Sheriff Prater, you and Vice President Johnson and Commissioner Clerk Everson. And we spoke with the sheriff in a somewhat of a private meeting that we had in his boardroom. I think the meeting was informative. I will leave some of the details for our next upcoming meeting. But I did try to encourage the sheriff, just as we have the other law enforcement officers, to come before the commission, not to address them in any way other than to find out information for the public. I was very surprised to hear the parish attorney saying that Caddo doesn't have a law enforcement entity. The constables, they are law enforcement, but from what I understand, it's still kind of confusing to me that they are not the law enforcement for the parish. But I clearly heard I thought I heard that the parish attorney said that the parish did not have a law enforcement group. Is that what I understood, Mr. President? I'm gonna address that to you.
I heard the same thing, but I don't want to speak for the attorney. So Donna, if you'd like to take that question.
That is correct. In the sense that, say for instance, with the City of Shreveport Police Department, the chief of police and the police department are ultimately answerable to the city council. The parish does not have a law enforcement agency that is answerable to it. The sheriff is his own elected entity. He has his own tax base. The constables are their own elected entities.
Well, I understand that, and that was one of the reasons that brought me to wanting to sit down with the sheriff and see if we can make sure that we keep that line of communication open, whether or not we call it the sheriff department, an entity that is not a parish. I still don't quite understand a parish policing entity. They still represent, I assume, represent the people of Caddo Parish. So I think from our standpoint, being in leadership and representing every district, I felt it was so important that we keep that line of communication open and not strain that line of communication between the sheriff department and the Caddo Parish Commission, because that is the only other comprehensive entity that we can naturally bridge between the public that we represent as lawmakers and policing. So I understand that this relationship has been strained in the past, and I'm trying to hopefully try to bring that back together so that so if we needed certain information as it relates to law enforcement in the parish, then we can ask the sheriff, not tell him, but ask him to come and talk with all of us so that we can all get the same message. That's the important thing, that whatever he departs, all of the commission get the same information, hopefully at the same time. But right now, he doesn't support that, and I understand why from his perspective. But I still think that that we need to open that dialogue back up where he's comfortable in coming down and addressing all of us at once. And since we do have a media source every 2 weeks, it'll keep the citizens abreast of his operation. And I was very pleased to hear some of the things that they are already doing that we are just now discussing from around the country that Sheriff Prater's sheriff department is doing already. And I tried to let him know that I think that the people would like to know that too, other than him calling the press conference whenever something happens. So again, I will address it again on in our next meeting, Mr. Chair. Thank you. But I would like to still invite him to be our guest at that meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Braille, Commissioner Young, and then Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. In advance of today's meeting, I asked Attorney Frazier to put together her thoughts for a brief on a legal opinion about the constitutionality of mandatory mask laws. And I wonder if this would be the appropriate time for her to give that opinion, or if perhaps we should wait until later, perhaps at the special session tomorrow. I'm asking your opinion.
I should say.
Okay. Wednesday is the
Mr. President?
Session. Yes, sir.
I mean, I don't want to rush anybody with their opinion, so I'm all about giving Ms. Frazier, Attorney Frazier, the opportunity to collect her thoughts and render an opinion and not rush to press her on that.
Attorney Frazier, would you rather gather the information to give us an opinion on Wednesday, or are you prepared to do that now?
Either way is fine with me.
Okay, well, feel free then. If you'd like to do it now, that's fine.
I think since our meeting is a little long, Wednesday might be better.
Okay, well, I'll respect that. Commissioner Young, you're the one that called for it. So,
If
Attorney
that's okay
Frazier,
with you, Attorney Frazier.
we do that during the special meeting. We'll do it then.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the concession, Commissioner Young. Commissioner Jackson, I have you on the board. Did you want to speak?
Yeah. I like to.
Is that better?
Yeah.
You have two mediums playing it simultaneously.
Yeah, I'm on my phone as well. That's how I don't know how the lady's saying I called her when I'm on the phone at the same time, but oh well. I was gonna ask Dr. Wilson, are we given the fact that there's no injunction in place for this monument, are we how close are we to issuing an RFP?
I believe we're waiting on a decision that's going to be rendered by the court here shortly before we can proceed.
Well, given that there's no injunction, what's the wait?
I think Attorney Frazier, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I think we're waiting on the outcome of the decision, right?
We are looking for that, but as far as some of the other movements that are necessary, we are looking at some other things, and it's kind of difficult to tell how far we are away from issuing the RFP, because we're still trying to get the engineering specs on what needs to be done before we can issue that. But we have actually started that process so that an RFP is ready to go once a resolution has been reached.
But there is no injunction in place.
There is no injunction, no.
Okay.
Point of
The other
clarification.
one is the Cypress case. Has that been tossed out, or do we need to file? Do we as a body need to ask the court to dismiss that? Because I think, you know, taxpayer resources has been consumed fighting a frivolous lawsuit as it related to some of those issues. And it's been what, 5 years now? And
Well, Commissioner, we're getting into legal strategy, so we would need to set up an executive session for that.
Well, has Mr. Stonecipher ever rendered a response?
I mean, he has not filed anything recently that I'm aware of.
So the case is just sitting out there as it was, just waiting 3 years ago, waiting on him to respond or file his brief.
There's actually not a wait on his part to respond, but the case, to answer your question, the case is in the same has been in the same posture for a while now.
Okay.
Point of clarification.
Is that point of clarification for Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, that could be either for that or Ms. Frazier.
Commissioner Jackson, would you entertain a point of clarification?
Yes, if he's got a question for me.
Okay.
Since some of us that are new is just being brought on board with the Confederate statute issue, I understand that as of June 30th, there was supposed to have been some decision rendered, but it was not. That decision, say that decision, if it was a go, then you could go ahead on and do what you need to do on the removal. And if it were not, if it was rendered a no, then what does that do?
Well, I guess that gets into legal strategy, and I guess that's probably what Attorney Frazier means by get with her offline or an executive session.
Well, instead of a strategy, I'm just saying if the judge would have say, I'll assume it's going to be a ruling of some sort, and it has gotten to this point where we're just waiting to do an RFP. I understand. What would the effect of the judge's decision if it was a no? Say if he decided to say that or she, then what would that do for us at this point?
Real.
Yes.
She said she will call you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Commissioners, I would advise us not to get into a big debate over this issue because the court have not finished its job.
Okay,
so
well, that's
right. I get that. Yeah. I get that, but the court has also not stopped us from doing anything either in the interim. And so there's this notion that there's an injunction, that people keep reporting that there's an injunction that's stopping us from moving forward. There's no injunction in place. And that's what I wanted to kind of put out, make clear.
And that was my point. That was my point of clarification. What is it? I mean, where are we, just dangling like a participle?
No, sir. We're doing more than dangling, sir.
Okay. Well, I just want to know how much are we dangling, or
I think it'd be better served if we have private conversations than public ones.
We can do that.
With respect to legal issues.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson, you still have the floor.
And just wanted to send my condolences. I missed the beginning of the meeting to send my condolences to Commissioner Lazarus, and hope everybody enjoyed their 4th of July. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Taliaferro.
I'm sorry, I do have one more. Attorney Frazier.
Yes.
In your, I know you've got some legal opinions that you're going to render, but we continue to get these group text messages where there are 12 commissioners, 9 and 10 commissioners on a text message with, these alleged reporters or bloggers. Could you please get us something, because they just keep texting us about commission business. And I just think that it runs afoul of the public meetings law where you got 12 commissioners on a text message, and that to me is a walking quorum. And so if we could get some guidance from legal on how we should be dealing with that, we would appreciate it. I don't need that before Wednesday or Thursday, but whenever y'all can get an opportunity to get us, particularly the new commissioner, some guidance on that. Because I believe our phones could be subject to public records requests if people get upset and want to start issuing public records requests.
We'll take care of it.
Thank you, Attorney Frazier. Commissioner Taliaferro, you now have the floor, and then Burrell after that.
I yield the floor to Commissioner Burrell. I don't know why my hand was up there, so I've already addressed my concerns, I believe.
Commissioner Burrell.
I just want to take the time to send my condolences directly to Commissioner Lazarus. I know it's a tough time for him, and just to let him know that anything that I can do, just give me a call. If it's just picking up the phone, and we had a conversation, a personal conversation several weeks ago, and it was very beneficial in me understanding who Commissioner Lazarus actually was. I saw a part of him that I'd never seen, should I say, heard a part of him that I never heard, and I appreciate that. Also, Dr. Lester, he is a pillar, has been a pillar of this community, and he's passed along with a number of our other community leaders. I don't think he had COVID. Dr. Lester was just ill over a period of time, but again, I want to send that out to his wife. On his death. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrell. Any other commissioners like to speak? I see no one else on the board.
I just want to tell you all thank you for your condolences. It means a lot to me. I appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Mr. Everson?
That brings us to citizens' comments, late arrivals. We do have a few that we received electronically, and I believe the deputy clerk may have received a phone call. We can check in just a moment. I'll start with the electronic comments that we received. The first one is a bit long. The second two are much shorter. So this is from Jennifer Courtney. It says, "Dear Commissioners, I'm writing to ask you to please pass a mask mandate in Caddo Parish. We are experiencing a spread of the coronavirus at levels that are significantly higher than they were in March when Governor Edwards issued a shelter-in-place order. The virus has not changed. It's not gone away. No fancy new treatment has become available. No vaccine has arrived. Nothing has changed since March. In fact, it has gotten worse. We still have to do everything we can to mitigate the spread of this virus. I'm a licensed midwife practitioner caring for pregnant individuals and their newborn babies. I would like to highlight the implications for pregnant people specifically. According to the CDC and AGOC, pregnant individuals are at an increased risk for developing severe complications from COVID-19, including stillbirth and maternal death. Those who are healthy and giving birth in the hospital are currently having to do so with only one support person, typically their spouse or domestic partner. They cannot have anyone else with them for support, no sisters, mothers, doulas, best friends. In some hospitals around the nation, people are giving birth with no support person at all, not even their spouse. When hospitals become overrun with COVID-19 cases, these are the measures they're having to take. For those giving birth out of hospital, a midwife like me has to go into their home environment in PPE and remain there for the duration of the labor, immersing the midwife in the environment for sometimes many hours. When a pregnant person is infected with COVID-19, the care team has to make sometimes drastic decisions on how to care for both of them. Babies may be delivered emergently and have separated from their birthing parent. This means a new mother may not be able to hold her baby. It means a baby may not be able to be held and fed and cuddled by their mother. Young parents in their childbearing years are not some invisible exception to the population as a whole. This is our population. Our new babies and their parents need to be safe, and they need their precious bonding time. It is extremely important that we as a culture protect them as well as our other at-risk members, essential workers, and medical care providers. Masks are something we can do. Even for those who are not at increased risk, the cost of treatment and hospitalization for COVID-19 is exorbitant. Who can afford weeks of ICU care, even with good insurance? Who can afford to be out of work even for a couple of weeks with a mild or suspected case? If we're worried about the economy, why not do what we can to prevent people being bankrupted by illness? Masks are something we can do easily. There's no medical reason for why anyone who is healthy enough to go out in public should be unable to wear a mask. My patients are pregnant, and it is my professional opinion there's no medical reason why a pregnant person cannot wear a mask. As a medical professional, I've been in situations where I've had to wear a medical grade respirator for up to 20 hours at a time. It is hot, it is uncomfortable, but it does not jeopardize my health. I am willing to do it to protect myself and the precious parents and babies I care for. There are medical professionals at the hospital who are spending back-to-back shifts caring for COVID-19 patients, wearing medical respirators for long periods of time without complications. We have generations of medical professionals who have used masks to protect their patients, who are proof that wearing a mask is not dangerous. For those who have medical or philosophical objections to wearing a mask, accommodations exist in the form of delivery and curbside services. Most businesses have already proved their willingness to make those accommodations for the people who need them. Masks are a simple, effective, low-risk, low-cost solution with measurable benefits. And that concludes the comments from Jennifer Courtney. The next comment is from Caroline Caperton, and it reads, I'm a registered Republican voter in Caddo Parish. I support the measure to enforce citizens to wear masks when going into stores due to the coronavirus pandemic. And it's signed Caroline Caperton, MD. The next comment, and this is the final comment that I've received, is from Gloria Lee, and it reads, my name is Gloria Lee, and I live in the Moortown section of the city. This area has been labeled a hotspot for the coronavirus. My husband and I are in that at-risk age, so we stay home most of the time. When we do go out, we can't get back home fast enough. It's heartbreaking to see so many citizens out and about with no mask, risking the lives of other citizens by not wearing a mask. I'm in favor of mandating the mask. We elected you guys to take care of the citizens of this parish, and what a wonderful job each commissioner is doing. You have our prayers and support. We are thankful and proud to have Stormy Gage Watts as our commissioner in District 7. She's doing a super job. Respectfully yours, Gloria Lee. Now, Deputy Clerk Nations, do we have anybody on the line currently from the telephone?
We do not.
Okay, great. That concludes the late arrival citizen comments.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. I guess that leaves us to the video from Mr. Kreft.
Would you like to play that now, or do you want to play that? I mean, is that what you're asking right now?
Yeah.
What about the special meeting?
At the special, sure. That's a good idea, Commissioner Burrell. Just because this meeting ran very long, we'll do that. We'll watch it after the meeting on Wednesday.
Okay, that sounds great.
Do we have to make a motion since it's on the agenda, or what?
I don't believe.
Attorney Fraser, being that it's a special meeting, I know we can't agenda addition it at that time, but can we do it now?
Yes, and you can actually put yes, go ahead and do it now. This way there won't be a question.
Okay.
So
moved, Chairman.
All right, so moved Commissioner Burrell by the chair. Commissioners, please vote.
Commissioner Hopkins? Hello?
Mr. Everson, we can pass that with acclamation. I don't see everybody
Great.
in accordance.
Just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Okay. So so I'm to take that motion was to move the video to the Wednesday meeting, correct?
Yes, sir.
Great. That brings us to the consent agenda.
The chair will so move.
Second.
All right, by Commissioner Young.
That was to adjourn?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much for the clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Everson. See you Wednesday.
Thank you. And also, just for everybody's knowledge, we do have a charter review committee is meeting for their first meeting tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Okay. See you then.